There's a reason Japanese fishermen don't argue with their electronics. While American boaters spend weekends troubleshooting why their fish finder won't talk to their engine display, anglers in Shizuoka and Fukuoka just turn the key and go. At first, that might sound like an exaggeration. Japan builds cars, Japan builds motorcycles. But boats? Most Western buyers wouldn't name a single Japanese boat brand if you asked. And that's exactly why what's happening in Japanese harbors right now deserves attention. The Yamaha F.A.S.T. 26 doesn't look revolutionary. It's a 26-foot fishing boat with a hard top, a single outboard, and a clean deck layout. Nothing that would stop traffic at a Miami boat show. But this boat quietly solves problems that American manufacturers have been creating for decades. It does this not through flashy innovation or excessive horsepower, but through something far simpler: integration. F.A.S.T. stands for fishing, amenity, sea style, and technology. That name matters because it reveals intent. This isn't a hull that Yamaha built and handed off to someone else to finish. It's a complete system designed from the waterline up to work as one unit. The engine talks to the display. The display talks to the trim. The trim optimizes for fuel economy automatically. No adapters, no aftermarket gateways. No praying that 3 different brands will communicate through some universal protocol they each interpret differently. In America, buying a fishing boat often means assembling a puzzle: hull from one builder, engine from another manufacturer, electronics from a third company, rigging configured by your dealer, who marks up every connection. By the time you're on the water, you've paid 5 different companies, and you're the one responsible for making their products cooperate. The Japanese approach starts from a different assumption entirely. What if one company took responsibility for everything? What if the boat arrived ready to fish, not ready to configure? The F.A.S.T. 26 answers those questions. And once you understand how it's built, you start wondering why we ever accepted the alternative. Yamaha has been building boats longer than most people realize. In 1960, while American manufacturers were still working primarily with wood and aluminum, Yamaha began producing fiberglass hulls in Japan. By 1965, they had transitioned the country's fishing fleet from traditional wooden construction to FRP, fiber-reinforced plastic. That's over 60 years of marine engineering, and the F.A.S.T. 26 carries that entire history in its hull. The numbers tell part of the story. The boat measures 8.4 meters long and 2.45 meters wide. It weighs 1,310 kilograms as a bare hull, 1,784 kilograms fully rigged and ready for water. The fuel tank holds 200 liters, enough for serious offshore range without the bulk of larger cruisers. Capacity is rated for 7 passengers, which means this isn't just a solo fishing platform. It's built for crews, for families, for full days on the water with room to move. Power comes from Yamaha's F175 outboard, a 4-stroke producing 128.7 kilowatts. That's 175 horsepower in a package designed specifically for this hull. Not bolted on as an afterthought. Matched. Calibrated. Tested as a single unit before it ever leaves the factory. The boat carries a limited coastal navigation rating, known in Japanese regulations as Gentei Enkai. This certification means it's approved for waters up to 5 nautical miles offshore in designated areas, a serious credential that requires meeting strict safety and construction standards, enforced by the Japan Craft Inspection Organization. 2 variants exist. The F.A.S.T. 26HT features a hard top for weather protection, while the F.A.S.T. 26EX offers an open configuration with an aft station for those who prefer fishing from the stern with full visibility. Both share the same proven hull, the same engine, and the same integrated electronics architecture. What makes these specifications meaningful isn't any single number. It's that every dimension, every component, every system was chosen by the same engineering team with the same goal. Yamaha doesn't just sell engines to boat builders. They are the boat builder. And that distinction changes everything about how the F.A.S.T. 26 performs. Walk into any American boat dealership and you'll witness a familiar ritual. The buyer picks a hull they like from one company. Then they choose an engine from Mercury, Yamaha, or Suzuki. Electronics come next, usually Garmin, Lawrence, or Simrad. The dealer orders everything separately, rigs it together in their shop, and charges labor for every connection. By launch day, 4 or 5 different companies have touched that boat. None of them talked to each other during design. None of them tested the final product as a complete system. This is how most Western boaters think boats get built. It feels normal because it's all we've known. Choice seems like freedom. Options seem like value. But there's a cost hiding inside all that flexibility. When your fish finder comes from one brand and your engine data comes from another, they need a translator. That translator is usually a black box called a gateway, and it costs money. When your trim tabs operate independently from your engine management, someone has to calibrate them manually. That someone is either you or a technician charging hourly rates. When something breaks, the finger pointing begins. The electronics company blames the engine company. The engine company blames the rigging. The dealer shrugs and bills you for diagnosis. The Japanese approach rejects this entire structure. Yamaha designs the F.A.S.T. 26 hull, knowing exactly which engine will power it. They engineer the electronics knowing exactly what data the engine will provide. The trim system knows the hull's characteristics because the same team designed both. Everything speaks the same language natively. No translation required. This isn't about limiting options. It's about eliminating friction. The time American boaters spend troubleshooting compatibility issues is time Japanese anglers spend fishing. The money Americans pay for integration is money that's already included in the Japanese sticker price. The warranty headaches that come from multiple vendors simply don't exist when one company stands behind the entire boat. Integration versus assembly. It sounds like a small distinction, but on the water it changes everything about how a boat feels and performs. The helm of the F.A.S.T. 26 reveals what integration actually looks like. Front and center sits the CL5, Yamaha's 5-inch touchscreen display that comes standard on both the HT and EX models. This isn't an aftermarket add-on. It's the nerve center of the boat, monitoring engine status, fuel consumption, trim angle, and trip data through a single clean interface. No adapters, no gateways. Just direct communication between screen and engine, because both were born from the same engineering team. Trim Assist changes how you drive. The system automatically adjusts the outboard's trim based on speed and RPM, optimizing the hull's angle for fuel efficiency without any input from the captain. On American boats, this feature typically requires separate trim tabs, a dedicated control panel, and careful manual adjustment. Here, it simply works. The boat finds its ideal running attitude and holds it. Fuel intelligence runs deeper than a simple gauge. The CL5 tracks real-time consumption, calculates remaining range, and logs economy data over time. For fishermen running 30 miles offshore, this information matters. It's the difference between confident navigation and anxious fuel math in your head. Below the waterline, the hull carries its own innovations. Yamaha's WTB system, which stands for Wave Thruster Blade, uses strategically placed strakes to redirect spray and soften the ride in choppy conditions. The wide bow flare keeps the deck dry even when pushing through headwinds. High gunnels wrap the entire fishing deck, providing safety without sacrificing accessibility. Purpose-built details appear everywhere. The integrated fish tank, called an ikesu, sits plumbed and ready for live bait. Deck drains flow to a dedicated gray water system. Rod holders, cutting boards, and tackle storage occupy positions chosen by designers who understood exactly how anglers move during a long day offshore. The EX model adds an aft station with its own remote, allowing the captain to control the engine while fishing from the stern. Every feature connects to every other feature. Nothing operates in isolation. This is what happens when a boat isn't assembled from parts but designed as a whole. Picture a morning in Shizuoka Prefecture. A fisherman arrives at his slip before dawn, coffee in hand. He steps aboard his F.A.S.T. 26, turns the key, and watches the CL5 wake up instantly. Engine status, fuel level, trim position, all confirmed in seconds. No waiting for separate systems to handshake. No checking whether last week's software update broke something. He idles out of the harbor and points toward open water, confident that everything will work exactly as it did yesterday. This is what ownership feels like when complexity disappears. The 8.4-meter length fits Japanese harbor infrastructure perfectly. Slips designed for domestic boats accommodate it without modification. Trailer regulations allow highway transport without special permits. Fuel docks, lift stations, and maintenance bays all expect boats of this size. Nothing about owning the F.A.S.T. 26 requires fighting the system it was designed for. Maintenance follows the same logic. When something needs attention, one phone call reaches one dealer who services one brand. No debates about whether the problem lies with the engine manufacturer or the electronics company. No waiting while technicians research how aftermarket components interact with factory systems. Yamaha trained the technician. Yamaha wrote the service manual. Yamaha stocks the parts. The diagnostic process that takes American dealers 3 appointments takes Japanese shops 1. 7-person capacity transforms the boat beyond solo fishing missions. Families use these hulls for weekend cruising. Charter captains run small groups to nearshore reefs. The Open EX variant handles dive trips where deck space matters more than weather protection. The enclosed HT version suits anglers who fish through rain and spray without retreating to port. Parts availability extends across Yamaha's global network. The same F175 outboard powers boats on 6 continents. Filters, anodes, and wear items sit on shelves from Tokyo to Brisbane to Sao Paulo. Unlike boutique brands with limited distribution, Yamaha's scale means support exists wherever boats operate. Resale values reflect this reality. Well-maintained Japanese boats hold their worth across Asian markets because buyers trust the ecosystem. They know what they're getting. No surprises hiding behind unfamiliar configurations. So why do Japanese boats feel different? The answer isn't technology. It isn't budget. It isn't some secret material or manufacturing technique unavailable elsewhere. The difference is philosophy. Integration over aggregation. Responsibility over delegation. A refusal to separate what belongs together. Japan's geography forced this thinking. Limited space meant boats couldn't sprawl. Crowded harbors demanded efficiency. Island nations required reliability because help sat far away. These constraints bred a design culture that valued completeness over customization. When you can't afford excess, you engineer elegance instead. America took the opposite path. Abundant space rewarded size. Competitive markets encouraged specialization. Boat builders built hulls. Engine makers built engines. Electronics companies built gadgets. Everyone optimized their piece without owning the whole. Choice became the selling point, even when choice created friction. Neither approach is wrong, but one asks more of the buyer. American boaters pay the integration tax in time, money, and frustration. They accept complexity as the price of options. Japanese boaters pay up front for a finished product and spend their energy on the water instead of in the shop. The good news is boundaries are blurring. Yamaha's Helmmaster EX system now brings integrated control to American markets. Other manufacturers are following, recognizing that buyers increasingly want solutions rather than components. The F.A.S.T. 26 itself remains unavailable outside Japan, but its philosophy is exportable. Every boat builder watching the market sees which direction customers are moving. What the F.A.S.T. 26 proves is simple but profound. When one company takes responsibility for the complete system, the result works better. Not because Japanese engineers are smarter, because integration eliminates the gaps where problems hide, because testing the whole reveals what testing the parts cannot, because accountability clarifies design in ways that committees never achieve. If you found this valuable, share it with someone who thinks about boats differently. Subscribe for more explorations of engineering that earns its reputation through results rather than marketing. Japan didn't build a smarter boat by adding more. They built it by refusing to separate what belongs together.